and we'll get on our feet. So, taking a few moments to settle into the space, our bodies, in preparation for today's practice, knowing that we're bringing different energy to the mat today than perhaps we brought the last time we came to the mat. Taking a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Noticing how the muscles in our faces soften. Noticing the rhythm of our breath. And that expansion of the rib cage laterally. Bringing our awareness to the breath as it comes in and out through the nose. Taking a moment to run through a body scan from head to toe, noticing the areas of lightness, of heaviness, of comfort, of discomfort. And noticing the energy that might be running through us. Taking a moment to set an intention. And perhaps an affirmation. Bringing our awareness back to the sounds, the temperature, and the space around us. And we'll lower our chin to our chest, rolling our head left to right at whatever speed feels good, as we slowly warm into our neck and shoulders. Maybe even feeling this through the upper back. Perhaps sensations that we weren't aware of. Perhaps sensations that built up over the week that now we can move through and release. Continuing to breathe at a slow and steady pace. And keeping a gentle micro bend in our knees. With our shoulders stacked over the hips. We'll do 2 more. And then holding our ear to whichever shoulder we get to, finding length through the crown of the head, noticing our shoulders soften. Perhaps we reach our opposite arm out, moving it around, checking in to see if that makes any difference in what we feel. Breathing in curiosity for the sensations that we might feel throughout the practice. Confidence that we won't push too far too fast, and thus letting our bodies release any tension that we might be holding. Releasing our arm if we had lifted it, and then we'll move our head through the center and over to the opposite side. Ear towards the shoulder, finding length through the crown of the head all the way down the neck, through the shoulder, and into the arm. Option to float the arm up, moving it around. Breathing into any areas of discomfort. Breathing in light, warmth, and space. Two more breaths. And then we'll bring our chin back to our chest, releasing our arms to the sides. And then we'll roll our shoulders up as well as the head. And then continue to roll the shoulders up and back. Noticing the changes in our neck, our shoulders and upper back. And then we'll switch directions, drawing the shoulder blades in towards the spine and rolling them around to the front. Great. Releasing out of that, bringing our arms parallel to the floor and just rolling the wrists around, making fists with the wrists, rolling them left to right, in and out. Maybe feeling this in the back of the hand, down the arm, maybe starting to feel it in the upper arm as we twist and roll the arm open and closed. Good, bringing the hands behind our back, interlacing the hands, pressing the knuckles towards the earth, drawing the shoulders back, and lifting the hands away from the glutes. Lifting our chest, calm, steady rhythm of breath. And a gentle expression on our face. Releasing out of that. We'll do some arm circles. So inhale, palms forward, and we'll draw the arms all the way back and around. Rotating the palms forward. Inhale, back and around. As big or as little as circles as suits us. Keeping that micro bend in the knees. Keeping the abdomen engaged. Hips are tucked under us. Two more. Kind of hard not to smile. And we'll repeat, going in the opposite direction. Inhale, we reach up. Exhale, we round down. Noticing the blood circulating through the arms and through the chest and the upper back. Noticing any cricks and cracks moving around in the neck as we move through the cobwebs. Two more breaths. And then we'll bring our arms all the way parallel to the floor, interlacing the fingers, pressing the palms towards me. Good. Inhale, reaching up, arching the lower back, opening the abdomen. Exhale, we round forward, arms come parallel to the floor, tucking the tailbone underneath us. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, rounding forward. 3 more, just like that. Noticing the range of motion expand with each breath. And we release our hands all the way back down. Rolling our shoulders and our head. Back to standing. Inhale, reaching the arms back up over our head. Interlacing, pressing the palms to the sky. And we'll come into a gentle side bend. Finding strength and stability in the anchored leg. The hip is not floating up. And we're not compressing on the inside of the body. We can maintain our calm, steady rhythm of breath as we elongate and create space in the side. Good. With deep breaths in, we exhale and slowly start to round ourselves forward so that we come in to hang like a rag doll in front. Checking in with the lower back. Getting a couple of breaths here as we sink into our forward fold. Slow and steady. Starting to notice what's happening in the back body. Down through the lower back and through the back of the legs. Gentle bend in the knees. As we continue to warm into the back of the hamstrings and the calves. And we'll gently roll up, stacking the vertebrae, shoulders and head. Coming back to standing. And on the next inhale, we reach our hands all the way back up. Palms together, interlacing, palms facing the sky. And we come over to the opposite side. Tucking our tailbone underneath us. Reaching long. And breathing space into the side body while not collapsing the inner side. Calm, steady rhythm of breath. Noticing any releases or transformations of our energy. And making sure that we're not transferring it to our jaw or our face. Good, and once again with big deep breaths in, we exhale and circle around, starting to lower our torso. Breathing in, expanding the ribcage, and then we lower, exhaling. Finding our way to center at our speed. Releasing the hands and then slowly melting into forward fold. Good, and slowly rolling up again. Stacking the vertebrae, tucking the hips under and lifting the shoulders and head. Rolling back, resetting. Stepping wider on our mat, about double hip width. The toes can point forward. And we'll melt into some sun and moon flowers. So on the inhale, we reach our arms up. And on the exhale, we sink into the hips, reaching towards the earth. Again, we float to the rhythm of our breath, slowly warming into the hips and the inner thighs. Nice. Maintaining a tall torso. Not worrying about where our hands meet or not meet. Let's do 2 more. Inhaling. And then exhaling, coming into our goddess squat. This time bringing our hands to our inner thighs. And we're going to shift our weight, lowering a shoulder into the center. Inhale, we lift our torso. Exhale, we lower to the other side. Slowly starting to increase our range of motion. Pressing into the inner thigh. And twisting into the lower back. Gently finding the yumminess of the pose through the shoulder, through the upper arm, down the back, and into the inner thigh. One more on each side. We'll come back to center, straightening our legs, pointing our toes forward. Good, and now we can release our hands to the earth. Walking our feet out if we need a little extra space, and allowing our heads to hang heavy. Gentle press through the knees into the back of the legs. Calm, steady rhythm of breath. Now we're going to shift our weight all the way over to one side. High lateral lunge here. Staying here for a few breaths, checking in with the inner thigh. Maybe we pulse or find stillness. And then option to float our way down into our hip, closer to the earth, lifting our extended foot. Lifting the toes to the sky. An option here to lift our torso, pressing away from the earth, or to curl over into the hip, or even to come into an arm bind if that feels good for us today. Calm, steady rhythm of breath, with the goal to maintain that rhythm throughout the practice. And figuring out what we need to maintain it as such. Noticing the muscles slowly release tension, allowing us to sink further into the pose. And we'll gently press ourselves back to center, wiggling that out. And then we'll come over to the other side. High lateral lunge to start, staying here for a few breaths. And then as and when the body craves or desires, we can sink a little bit down, melting towards the earth, into the hip, lifting the toes up, getting a good stretch on the inner thigh muscle, and then finding the upper body pose that we need at this point. Noticing the breath, and the physical sensations that may be transforming. Lovely. Coming back to center. Slow transition, pressing ourselves back into our forward fold, hanging our heads heavy. And we can shift our weight forward and back, lifting the toes and then the heels. Gentle float up and back. Up on the toes. Pressing into the heels, maybe getting a gentle massage of the fronts of the toes, the fronts, the balls of the feet and the heels. Noticing the calf muscles engage as we rise up on our toes, as well as the fronts of the feet. Two more. Good. Coming back to stillness. Bringing our left head, bringing our head to the left side of our body over towards the left leg. Reaching our hands towards the shin or the foot. And noticing a change in the back of the leg as we focus our energy and our attention on the left side. Elongating our torso, walking our hands over to the right. Gentle transition, drawing our forehead over to the right leg. Breathing space to clear any areas of discomfort. And coming back to center. And wiggling that out. We'll heel toe the feet in nice and slowly, stopping along the way. Working our way back into a forward fold. And bringing our feet all the way together. Maybe your bunions or your big toes. And we'll hinge forward. Breathing into the back of the legs. Maybe feeling this running down the sides of the legs. Perhaps through the knees and into the ankles. Remembering to use our breath as a guide. Good. Inhale, bending the knees, coming all the way down, crouching, and then onto our glutes. Grabbing a sip of water in between if that's needed at this point, and then we'll stack our legs on top of one another. Fire logs. So bringing the right leg on top to start. Good. And making sure our sit bones are firmly planted. We'll reach our arms all the way up over our shoulders on the inhale. Palms together. And exhale, hands to heart center. Good. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, palms together, hands to heart center. Good. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, this time rotating, open, over to the right. Pressing our hands into the earth, onto the fingertips, and lifting the torso tall. Looking over our right shoulder. Deep breaths, bringing our awareness to areas of discomfort. And inhaling, coming back to center, reaching the arms up. Hands to heart center. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Right hand comes to the side, left hand reaches tall, and we come into a side bend here. Keeping our sit bones firmly planted, we're not letting our left hip float up. And we're not collapsing into the right side. We're continuing to maintain length in the torso as we create space through the left side, down in through the hip and into the lower back. Bringing the earth towards us if we have our blocks close. We're just using our hand for support. Lowering down only as our body opens, and we can continue to keep the sit bones firmly planted. Maintaining our calm, steady rhythm of breath. And as we did standing, we'll take deep breaths in, and on the exhales, we'll round forward. Continuing to use our anchored arm as support. Bringing our left hand to the earth when we get there, and then the right hand can follow. And we'll hinge forward. Inhale, lifting our torsos tall, elongating. Exhale, we hinge forward. Once again, we can use our block to bring the earth closer up to us. And checking in with the hips and the glutes, maybe even running down the back of the right leg. Melting with each exhalation. Celebrating the micro gains that we might be sensing as energy clears away the blockages. Beautiful. Next inhale, we press ourselves up. And we'll release out of that. Bringing our legs in front of us, giving them a little wiggle. And we'll cross the opposite leg under. The left comes in front or on top. And we settle into the pose. And with the next inhale, we reach our arms up. Palms together, exhaling, hands to heart center. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, palms together, hands to heart center. Good, next one, inhaling up. And we open, rotating to the left. One hand in front, one behind. Pressing into the earth, lifting the torso. And gazing beyond the left shoulder. Bringing our awareness to any areas that might need our attention and nourishment. Just settling on that area and noticing how it changes. The more attention we bring to something, the more it will change. Excellent. Next, inhale, we reach the arms back up. Hands to heart. One more time. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, left hand comes to the earth, up on the fingertips, reaching the right arm tall on the inhale. And then we come over into a side bend, making sure that our right sit bone remains planted and the hip isn't floating out. Noticing how the energy starts to move around in the right hip and lower back as we create space with our breath and perhaps a visualization of sunlight and warmth. One more big breath, releasing through the nose. And then on the exhales to follow, we slowly hinge forward, rolling, checking in with the lower back. Moving to the rhythm of our breath. Bringing our right hand to the earth and letting the left hand follow as we center ourselves, elongating the torso on the inhale. And exhaling, we melt over the hinged hip, over the top leg, the front leg, melting with our exhalations. Two more breaths. Noticing the transformations, noticing the speed of our breath, and the space we're creating in our body. On the next inhale, we press our torso all the way up. Exhale. We release our legs in front, giving them a little wiggle. And slowly coming into Skandasana. Dandasana, bringing our legs out in front, staff pose. Keeping our toes flexed to the sky, feet are together. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, we hinge forward. Option to hold here, tucking our chin to chest. Arms are parallel to the floor. Option to pulse, reaching our arms beyond our feet. Option to release the hands to the legs or to the floor. Whatever our body is craving in this moment, we choose that. Keeping the toes flexed to the sky. And then we'll all come to a peaceful, sedentary state, allowing the back of our hands to float to the earth, pointing and flexing the feet, wiggling them, or just being still and present in this moment, noticing the energy that's being released in the spine. Perhaps we're starting to feel warmth from the tailbone through to the head. Good. And on the inhale, we'll gently roll ourselves up, stacking the vertebrae. Shoulders and head, tucking our feet in towards our glutes, hip width apart, and we'll lower our spine down to the earth, nice and slow. rolling like a boat, or however we get there. Allowing our lower back to settle in. Keeping our feet hip width apart. And we'll lift our hips to the sky, driving our weight into the heels and into the shoulder blades in the back of the head, keeping our knees stacked up over our heels and our ankles, flexing into the quadriceps and the glutes, maybe noticing an opening of the abdomen, maybe even the chest. Now we'll lower all the way back down, hugging the knees into our chest. And giving ourselves a little wiggle or a massage left to right. Noticing what's happening in the front of the legs and the hip flexors. As we squeeze the knees towards our chest. Letting our left leg float to the earth side of the mat. And bringing our right leg across either in figure 4 or in eagle. And we'll slowly twist over to the right side, lowering the knees to the mat, rolling onto the inner side of the foot, and then finding a placement for the arms. Perhaps we reach them over our head, or we bring them to the sides of the body or onto our hips. Once again, noticing what's happening in the left side of the body. Perhaps a pattern of tension running from the armpit through the side, the lower back, hip, into the knee. Perhaps we want to pulse, to break into it, or focus on a visualization, or perhaps even into our third eye, bringing our awareness to our happy place. Releasing out of that, bringing both feet to the earth, and we'll extend the legs long on the mat. We'll extend the arms long, coming into our hollow hold pose, arching the lower back to start, breathing in through the abdomen into the lower back. Letting the lower back assume its natural curvature. And we'll bring our feet back in, hip width apart, and hug them in. Rocking, pulsing, or finding stillness. Perhaps we're starting to notice different sensations on one side of the body. Maybe one side is starting to feel a little looser and lighter. Let's celebrate that. And then we'll bring our right foot to the outer edge of the mat, planting it down. Left leg crosses over, figure 4 or eagle. And then slowly we lower the knees over to the left, rolling onto the inner side of the right foot. And then finding a placement for our arms again. Bringing our awareness to those physical sensations and to our breath. Noticing when we might get distracted by sounds, thoughts, or emotions. Seeing if we can't just let them go, parking them for the time being. trusting that they'll come back if they're important. And we'll have more mental clarity to deal with them at that point. Appreciating the releases of tension that our body is allowing in this safe space as we continue to maintain our calm and steady rhythm of breath as our guide. And coming out of that gently, once again, untwisting the legs, extending them long on the mat, extending the arms long, arching the lower back, deep breaths in through the abdomen and into the low back. And then allowing the lower back to assume its natural curve, bringing our arms back down towards our hips and curling our knees back in for a gentle hug. Maybe we lift our head and our shoulders off the earth this time. And opening into happy baby, wiggling the feet, opening the knees, bringing our chest, shoulders, and head back to the earth. Checking in with the inner thighs, hugging the knees to start. And now reaching our hands to grab onto the edges or the fronts or the toes of our feet. And we have an option to hold here, pressing the knees towards the earth. Shoulder blades are connected. And the option to open one leg at a time or both. Floating through either in a calm, steady manner or with something a little bit more dynamic, depending on what we need in this moment. Be here for a few more breaths. Making it what we need it to be. Bringing the bottoms of our feet together, noticing the softness of our faces and our shoulders. Interlacing the hands around the back side of the feet, and then bringing our shoulders and our head back to the earth, drawing the heels in towards our center, making contact with the shoulder blades and our lower back, and pressing the knees away, releasing and pressing. Do that a few more times. Good. And releasing out of that. Once again, bringing our feet down to the earth about hip width apart, lifting back into our bridge, driving into the heels and the shoulder blades, tucking the chin to the chest as the neck slowly opens. And releasing out of that. One more time, bringing the knees into our chest for a gentle hug. And we'll extend our legs over our hips, driving the heels up, maybe wiggling the feet out, depending on what feels good, what the body tells us we need. Noticing the energy running through the back of the legs, up through the hamstrings, into the calves. We have an option to stay here, or we have an option to come into a plow pose. So making sure we have enough space beyond our head, if we so desire. Alternatively, we can come back down into Shavasana, or even choose an upward bow. Loads of options. So if we're coming into a plow pose, we're going to lift the hips. Maybe we want to bend the knees. Maybe we just want to hinge over, however we get there. And we roll our weight onto the back of the neck and into the shoulders. And as the body starts to release more energy in the back of the spine, down through the legs, perhaps our toes touch our blocks or the earth. No competition, no expectation of where we will get to today. Checking in with our breath and the heat that's being generated through the spine as we release energy. We release the tension as we melt into whichever pose we've decided to choose. Making the pose fit our body, making it what we need it to be, and coming out of it whenever we're ready. Otherwise, we'll be in our pose for a few more breaths, appreciating the opening that we're creating. And whenever we're ready to come down, perhaps we curl our knees into our forehead, we support our lower back, and we lower down one vertebrae at a time, coming back into Shavasana, allowing our lower back to resume its natural curvature, slow and steady. Finding length along the mat as we extend our legs and arms one more time, reaching over our head, arching into the lower back, breathing deeply into the abdomen. Finding any final micro movements before we come into our resting pose, adjusting as and when needed. Maybe we do one final hug, or we come into Shavasana, fetal pose, or prone. Noticing the gentle expression on our faces, the jaw, our neck and shoulders. Checking in with the arms, the wrists, the hands and the fingers. The expansion of our chest and our upper back when we breathe in. The softness of our belly, the strength of our back. Noticing the contact of our hips on the earth. the glutes, the back of the legs, the calves, the heels tapping onto the floor. Bringing our awareness to the bottoms of the feet and wrapping that awareness and light around the toes, into the fronts of the feet, ankles, the fronts of the shins, into the knees, the quadriceps, the pelvis and the hips. Bringing our awareness back to the abdomen and our big breaths in with the expansion of our ribs laterally. And sighing it out. 2 more just like that. Big breaths in through the nose. Sighing it out through the mouth. Smiles on our faces. And releasing anything residual that may not serve us, anything that we may have worked through during our practice that we can let go of. Taking a moment to reflect on any intention that we may have set at the beginning of our practice, and perhaps setting a new one or reinforcing the same one. And the smiles on our faces, we give thanks for the opportunity to practice. We give thanks for this beautiful, supportive, and loving community. The kindness, forgiveness, and compassion that we show to one another, that we remember to show to ourselves first, so that it is available for others. We give thanks for our bodies, for our confidence to listen to our breath and the physical sensations, to help guide our movements and to release the stress and tension that we might have been holding. Taking the time we need to imprint our practice on the mat. And when we're ready, we bring our new floatiness, lightness, and space back to the space around us, to the gentle sounds, smells, and temperature. Wiggling our way back, bringing awareness to the physical being, and rolling ourselves up when we're ready. Finding our hands at heart center, palms together. And we give thanks for one another. The light in me sees the light in you. Namaste.